Good morning, students. Today, in this lecture, we will discuss about the mobility and conductivity in semiconductor materials. In our previous lectures, we have seen about the basic construction features of our semiconductor materials and basic property of semiconductor materials, how they form the covalent bonds, and what is the effects of temperature on the property of our semiconductor materials. So today we will discuss further about the mobility. So, as the name semiconductor is known about, what about the semiconductor, and there are the specific electrical properties. And the substance that conducts the electricity is called as a conductor, and substance that doesn't conduct the electricity is called as a insulator. So that is the what about the semiconductor. So semiconductor are the substance with properties somewhere lies between they. So means at we have to talking at about that at the 0 degree Kelvin it will work as a insulator, but as we increase the temperature, the semiconductor conductivity will be increases and it will behave just like a conducting materials. So electrical properties can be indicated by the resistivity. Conductors such as gold, silver and copper have the low resistance and conduct the electricity easily. Insulators such as rubber, glass and ceramics have high resistance and are difficult for electricity to pass through. So semiconductor have properties where between these two, so their resistivity might change according to temperature. So at a low temperature, almost no electricity passes through them, but when the temperature rises, electricity passes through them easily. So we can see that semiconductors containing almost no impurities conduct almost no electricity. But when some elements are added to the semiconductor, so electricity passes through them easily. So what about happens here? The semiconductors comprising a single element are called the elemental semiconductors, including the famous semiconductor material silicon. On the other hand, semiconductors made up of two or more compounds and they are called as a compound semiconductors and are used in semiconductor laser light emitting diode. So here we are using the compound semiconductor. So this is our chart in which we can show the layout of resistivity. So this is the conductor materials, the resistivity up to the 10 to the power minus 6. In the center part there is a semiconductor resistivity, and after this part there is a insulator, and this is the resistivity. So insulator will hide the very high resistivity. If we are talking about the materials, so that is as we have to already seen, silver, gold, aluminium are the good conductors. Carbon, germanium and silicon, that they are the semiconductor materials, and rubber, ceramic, glass, silica, they are the insulator. So this is the basic description of our semiconductor and other materials. Now we will discuss about the energy band. So an atom is consisting of a nucleus and electrons orbiting the nucleus. The electrons cannot orbit the nucleus at any distance in the atomic space surrounding the nucleus, but only certain very specific orbits are allowed and only exist in specific discrete levels. These energies are called as a energy level. So the large number of atoms gather to form a crystal and interacts in a solid material, then the energy levels become so closely spaced that they form bands. And this is the energy band. Metal, semiconductor, and insulator are distinguished from each others by their particular band structure. And their band structures are shown in the figure. So you can see here, if we are talking about the metal, so in metal, there is no band gap. Conduction band and valence band are overlapped, and free electrons are easily moved from valence band to the conduction band. And this type of property we can see in our metals. Another one is the semiconductor material. So there is a band gap, and these Value of this band gap is very small, approximate equal to 1 electron volt. Now, at normal phenomena, in valence band there are free electrons, but if you are talking about the conduction band, there is not any free electrons. So when we have to provide some heat to the semiconductor material, some of the electrons will move towards the valence band to the conduction band. Since the band gap between the valence band and conduction band is very small, so they can easily move from valence band to conduction band, and then our conductivity will be increases. Now, if we are talking about the insulator, so that is the gap between the valence band and conduction band is very high. And if you want to transmit your some of the electrons from valence band to conduction band, it is a very tough task to start the conductivity between these two. So in metals, conduction band and valence band come very close to each other, and they even overlap to with the Fermi level EF somewhere. This means that metal always has electrons that can move freely and so can always carry the current. Such electrons are known as free electrons. The free electrons are responsible for current that flow through the metal. In semiconductors and insulator, the valence band and conduction band are separated by a forbidden energy gap of sufficient width, and the Fermi level is between the valence band and the conduction band. To get to the conduction band, the electrons has to gain enough energy to jump the band gap and reach to the conduction band. And this is done, it can conduct. Now what about the conductivity? In semiconductors at room temperature, the band gap is smaller. There is enough thermal energy to allow the electrons to jump these gaps fairly easily and make the transitions in conduction band, given the semiconductor limited conductivity. So at low temperature, no electron passes sufficient energy to occupy the conduction band, and though no movement of charge is possible. So basically, low temperature, it will behave just like an insulator. And at absolute zero, semiconductor are perfect insulator, and the density of electrons in conduction band at room temperature is not as high as in metals. Thus cannot conduct current as good as the metal. The electrical conductivity of semiconductor is not as high as metal, but also not as poor as the electrical insulator. So that is why this type of material is called as a semiconductor, means half conductor. The band gap for insulator is large, so very few electrons can jump the gap. Therefore, current doesn't flow easily in insulators. The difference between insulator and semiconductor is the size of band gap energy. So, in insulator, their forbidden gap is very large, and as a result, energy required by electrons to cross over to the conduction band is practically large enough. The semiconductor crystal used for IC is high purity single crystal silicon, but when actually making a current, impurities are added to control the electrical properties. Depending on the added impurities, they become N-type and P-type semiconductors. So by adding the different pentavalent or trivalent impurities, we can make our semiconductor material as a N-type and P-type semiconductor materials. So you can see, if we are working on the N-type semiconductor materials. So the EF is the Fermi energy level. So now this level will be ED. That is the ED. So it will be shifted to here, donor. So that is represent as a donor atoms. And now in P-type semiconductor, it is a acceptor. So it will represent as a EA, and that is lies nearby the valence band. So pentavalent phosphor or arsenic are added to high purity silicon for N-type semiconductor, and these impurities are called the donors. The energy level of donor is located close to the conduction band. That is, energy gap is small. Then electrons at this energy level are easily excited to the conduction band and contribute to the conductivity. On the other hand, when we are working on the trivalent boron is added to p-type semiconductor material, and this is called as a acceptor. The energy level of the acceptor is close to the valence band. Since there are no electrons here, electrons in the valence band are excited here. As a result, holes are formed in the valence band which contribute to the conductivity. So there is, as we have to already seen in a figure, that in p-type semiconductor material, the Fermi energy level is lies between the near the valence band, and due to this, there may be the we can enhance our conductivity. And now we will see the electron and hole mobility. So what about the mobility? So the ability of electron to move through a metal or semiconductor in presence of applied electric field. So it is called as a electron mobility, and mathematically we can represent as a Vn, that is equal to mu n E. So what about the Vn is the drift velocity of electrons, and mu n is the mobility of electrons, and capital E is the applied electric field. Let's just consider a semiconductor that consists of a large number of free electrons, and when there is no voltage or electric field applied across the semiconductor, the free electron moves randomly. So when voltage or electric field is applied across the semiconductor, each free electron starts to move quickly in the particular direction. So electrons move very fast in a vacuum, and in metals or semiconductor, free electrons don't move very fast. Instead, they move with a finite average velocity, and this is called as a drift velocity. So drift velocity is directly proportional to the electric field, and hence when electric field increases, drift velocity also increases. However, mobility of electron is independent of the applied electric field. Change in electric field doesn't change the mobility of the electrons. So that is basically mobility of electron is independent of the applied electric field. So SI unit of electric field is volt per meter, and SI unit of velocity is meter per second. So if we are talking about the SI unit of mobility, so that is equal to m square slash v dot s. What about the hole velocity mobility? The ability of an hole to move through a metal or semiconductor in the presence of applied electric field is called the hole mobility. And if we are representing it as a Vp, that is equal to mu p into E. So E is the applied electric field, and mu p is the mobility of the holes. And Vp, it will be represented as a drift velocity of the holes. So when one electron hole pair is created, there are two charge carriers produced. One is negative charge carriers associated with the electron and other is positive charge carrier associated with the hole. So, mobility of hole in crystal is mu h, and mobility of electron we will denote it as a mu e. So these holes and electrons move in opposite directions, and the electrons always tends to move in opposite to the applied electric field. The current density due to drift of holes is given by JH, that is equal to EPVH E, and current density due to drift of electrons JE, that is equal to ENVE, so that is also equal to En mu E capital E. As the drifting of holes constitute the current in the same direction and drifting of electrons provide current in the opposite direction. So what will happen here when we are talking about the holes, movement of holes and movement of our electrons. So in both the cases, current are in the same direction, that in the direction of the drifting of the holes. So resultant current due to these both charge carriers will be arithmetic sum of the two currents, and hence resultant current density would be, that is equal to J, that is equal to JH upon JE. So EPVH upon EN. So what about the N E? So that is a basically fixed, and that is conductivity. So if you want to represent the conductivity, that is equal to P mu H plus N mu H, where into E is the conductivity of the semiconductor materials. So N is the magnitude of free electron concentration, P is the magnitude of hole concentration, and sigma is the conductivity of the semiconductor materials. Now we will discuss about the charge carrier density. The charge carrier density, also known as the carrier concentration, denotes the number of charge carriers in per volume. In SI units, it is measured in meter cube. As with any density, in principle, it can depend on the position. So now charge density in the extrinsic semiconductor. So that is basically mass action law. Addition of n-type impurities to a pure semiconductor results in reduction in the concentration of holes below the intrinsic value. So similarly, addition of p-type impurities results in reduction in the concentration of the free electrons below the intrinsic level. So that is a mass action law. According to that, we have to statement that addition of n-type impurities to a pure semiconductor results in the reduction in the concentration of holes below the intrinsic value. Similarly, addition of p-type impurities results in the reduction in concentration of the free electrons below the intrinsic value. The theoretical analysis reveals that at any given temperature, the product of the concentration N of free electrons and the concentration of P of the holes is constant and is independent of the amount of doping by donor and acceptor impurities. So in this equation, we can see that Ni is the intrinsic concentration and the function of temperature. So in equation first is called the mass action law. We find that doping of either type increases the conductivity and results in either free electrons or holes to dominate the situation. With n-type doping, as per mass action law, free electron density far exceeds the hole density, and thus electrons from the majority carriers while holes from the minority carriers. So with p-type doping, concentration of holes far exceeds the concentration of free electrons, and hence holes from the majority carriers while electrons from the minority carriers. Excess electrons. So covalent bond model, one G atom loaded by the arsenic atom. So you can see here, this is a conduction band, valence band, and what amount of excess electrons are there, that is here. And this is a energy band diagram and two-dimensional covalent bond model of the n-type germanium atom. Now we will discuss about the charge density in the extrinsic semiconductor. So if we are talking about the extrinsic semiconductor, so electron density eta and hole density rho are related by the mass action law, and n into p, that is equal to ni square. So two densities are also governed by law of neutrality. A semiconductor is required to be electrically neutral, and magnitude of negative charge density must equal the magnitude of the positive charge density. So Nd and Na denote the respectively density of donor atoms and density of the acceptor atoms. Now further we assume that all the donor atoms and acceptor atoms get ionized at room temperature, and then Nd immobile positive charge carriers are contributed by the donor ions, and the total positive charge density equals the Nd plus P. So now you can see here Na is the immobile negative charge carrier per meter cube are contributed by the acceptor ions, and the total negative charge density, that is equals the Na plus N. So condition of, so how you can do, if you have to working on the acceptor impurities, donor impurities, so then you can make Nd plus P and Na plus small n, and both the condition of electrical neutrality both are equal. In n-type semiconductor with no acceptor doping, with Na is equal to 0, N is greater than P, hence we may neglect P in equation 2 and write the equation 2 Nn, that is equal to capital N and D. The concentration of holes in n-type semiconductor material may now be obtained from equation. So that is equal to Pn, that is equal to Ni square upon Nd. So similarities in p-type semiconductor material with no donor doping, with Nd is equal to 0 and P is greater than N. Hence, we may neglect N in the equation 2 and rewrite the equation. So that is equal to Pn, that is equal to Ni square upon Pt. The density of mobility carrier electrons in p-type semiconductor may be obtained from equations, above equations, and we can write this way. Now you can see here crystal lattice with one gallium atom displaced by in atom, and now in second diagram crystal lattice with hole having shifted to germanium atom. So these are the basically energy band diagram and p-type. So in both n-type and p-type impurities are present simultaneously, then the net concentration of carriers of n-type and p-type are given by the equation, where carriers in majority reduce the carriers in minority to extremely small value. The net result is that resultant concentration of majority carriers gets reduced by the doping concentration of impurity atoms. So now we can see here example. Suppose Nd, that is equal to 80 Ni, and Na, that is equal to 8 Ni, and Na electrons combined with equal number of holes constituted by this, leaving net free electron concentration, that is equal to the 72 Ni. So 72 Ni is the density of majority carrier electrons, while minority carrier hole density is or thus the negligible. So the semiconductor is now called as a n-type semiconductor materials. And on the other hand, if density of acceptor atoms exceed the density of donor atom, then holes from the mobility carriers and semiconductor is called as a N type. Now we can see the charge density formula. The density is a measure of how much electric charge is accumulated in a particular field. Especially it finds the charge density per unit volume, surface area and length. So it measures the amount of electric charge. Now we can see here per unit length, linear charge density, surface charge density, per unit area, and again volume charge density, that is equal to per unit volume. So that is a different types of charge density. Now charge density depends on the distribution of charge and it can be positive or negative. So depending on the nature, charge density formula can be given by linear charge density lambda, that is equal to Q, where Q is the charges and second is the length over which it is distributed. So the SI unit is centimeter to the power minus 1. Now surface charge density, that is equal to sigma QA, where Q is the charge and A is the area of surface. Now volume charge density, where rho and Q, that is equal to 0 and Vp, that is equal to Q dot V. So Q is the charge and V is the volume of distribution. The SI unit is. So what is the drift velocity of electrons with the derivation? So we will see here about the drift velocity. So every material is made up of atoms which are in turn composed of the negative charge electrons. Now the negatively charged electrons move in the random direction within the atom. The moment of electron generates the electricity and due to their random motion, the average velocity of electrons in a material becomes zero. So it was observed that when a potential difference is applied to the end of a material, electrons present in the material acquire a certain amount of velocity which causes a small net flow in one direction. This velocity that causes the electrons to move in the certain direction is known as the drift velocity. So what about the drift velocity? The average velocity attained by random moving electrons when external electric field is applied which causes the electrons to move towards one direction is called the drift velocity, and the current produced by this movement of the electrons towards the higher potential is called as a drift current. So how we can derive the drift velocity? So this is the basic theory part. So to derive the expression for drift velocity, its relation with the mobility of electrons and effect of applied external electric field have to be known. The mobility of an electron is defined as it is drift velocity for a unique electric field. So the electric field is proportional to the current. Thus, Ohm's law can be written as. So how you can write the Ohm's law? So you can write your according to that law, F that is equal to minus mu E. When mu is the mobility of electron measured as meter square per volt second, E is the electric field measured as, and F is the MA where MA is the mass. So if you are calculate A, that is equal to F by M minus mobility into electric field per meter. So final velocity U, that is equal to V plus AT, that is the equation of our. Now here V is equal to 0, small t is equal to capital T, which is the relaxation time of electrons, Therefore, mu is equal to AT. Substitute into, so mu is equal to minus mu E upon m into T. Here mu is the drift velocity measured as per meter second. And this gives the final expression. The SI unit of drift velocity is used in the meter per second or meter square per volt into second. Now what about the drift velocity? The formula is used to find the drift velocity of electrons in current carrying conductor. When electrons with density n and charge q causes a current I to flow through a conductor of cross-sectional area A, drift velocity V can be calculated through the formula I, that is equal to NAVQ. So an increase in the applied external electric field intensity causes the electrons to accelerate more rapidly towards the positive direction, opposite to the direction of electric field. Now the relation between the current density and drift velocity. What is the basic relation? So current density is defined as the total amount of current passing per unit time through per unit cross sectional area of the conductor. So formula of drift velocity is the I, that is equal to NAVQ. So the current density J when cross sectional area and drift velocity are given and calculated as follows. J is equal to I upon A. So that is equal to, if we have to see NQ, A into Q. So that is equal to value of A, that is equal to 1. So it will equivalent to the A to A cancel out and only this value is remaining. So now we can see here where V is the drift velocity of electrons. Current density is measured as the ampere per square meter. So that is a basic fixed value. And from the formula, it can be said that drift velocity of electrons of a conductor and its current density is directly proportional to each other. As the drift velocity increases with increase in electric field intensity, the current flowing through per cross-sectional area also increases. So now we will see what about the drift velocity expressions. So when the mobility mu of the charge carriers and the strength of applied electric field E are given, the Ohm's law in terms of drift velocity, that is equal to the V mu E. So the SI units for the mobility of electrons are meter square per volt second and SI unit of electric field E are volt per meter. The SI unit for V is meter per second and SI unit is also known as the axial drift velocity. Thus, electron present in the conductor move away even when no external field is applied. So when the yet net velocity produced by them gets cancelled due to the random collisions, so net current will be zero. So relationship between the electric current, current density and drift velocity helps in the proper flow of electrical current through the conductor. And what is the drift current? So we can define it in this way, drift current. Now we will switch to the diffusion current. So here, before starting the diffusion current, we will see that in our semiconductor materials, generally, if there is not a uniform doping, so basically the diffusion current will be generated. So we can say that diffusion current is a current in a semiconductor caused by the diffusion of charge carriers. Okay. So holes and electrons, and this is the current which is due to the transport of charges occurring because of non-uniform concentration of charge particles in a semiconductor. So generally, the charge particles are not uniformly distributed in our semiconductor material. Diffusion current is mainly generated in semiconductors. The doping done in semiconductor is non-uniform. In order to achieve the uniformity, the flow of charge carriers take place from higher concentration area to the lower concentration area, and it is referred to as the diffuser. So this process generally doesn't occur in conductors. So Fick's law well describes the diffusion of flux. From that the thesis is derived from for diffusion of electrons as well as for holes. The necessity of diffusion current in the semiconductor is because of the reason behind the dominating current at the junction. So at the equilibrium condition, the net currents are zero because forward current is balanced by the reverse drift current. But inside the depletion region, both drift and diffusion currents are present. So what do you mean by the diffusion current? So generally in semiconductors, one can find the movement of charge carriers, and this movement of carrier is termed as the diffusion. The movement of carriers is observed from the higher concentration area to the lower concentration area, and in this process of movement, there is some generation of current, and this type of current is referred to the diffusion current for the semiconductors. Diffusion current can occur in the semiconductor that are non-uniformly doped because in non-uniformity only one can find the majority and minority concentration so that movement can be observed for the carriers from higher concentration to the lower concentration. So let's just take the example of n-type semiconductor that doped non-uniformly. In this, the majority of concentration of carrier is of electrons and the minority of concentration of carrier is of holes. But while dealing with diffusion, the property of majority carriers is considered here. Once the movement of electrons is from higher concentration area to the lower concentration area, recombination takes place and it achieves non-uniformity and current is generated in this process. And if it is n-type, electrons move from the higher concentration to the lower concentration, and in the case if it is the p-type holes tends to move from higher concentration area to lower concentration area. So drift and diffusion, both the process occur in the semiconductor, but diffusion mainly occurs without the interference of any external voltage. So now we will see what about the concentration gradient. In any semiconductor, there is presence of the concentration of electrons and holes. The difference in this concentration of electrons or holes is referred to the concentration gradient. Diffusion current density is proportional to the concentration gradient. If the value of concentration gradient is high, then the density will be high. If concentration gradient value is low, in that case diffusion density will be low. So now equations in between concentration gradients and densities can be written as the equation for diffusion current density and concentration gradient of n type. So if we are talking about the n type, so that is the Jn that is directly proportional to the dn by dx. An equation for diffusion current density and concentration gradient of p type semiconductor. So that is a Jp and that is directly proportional to dP by dx. So hence here represents the density with respect to electrons and represents the density with respect to the holes. Diffusion current density equations. The diffusion density because of the carrier concentration of electrons is given by Jn that is equal to E dn by dx. Similarly, the diffusion current density of the carrier concentration of holes can be written. So you can also write your current density for holes that is equal to this one, and here it stands for diffusion coefficient with respect to the electrons and stands for the diffusion coefficient with respect to the holes. The above equation is for densities of diffusion densities with respect to electrons and holes, but overall density of current of respective holes or electrons can be given by the sum of diffusion current and the drift current. The overall diffusion density with respect to electrons can be given. So if we are talking about the Jn, so that is equal to the combination of drift current plus diffusion current. So Jn that is equal to the En mu n E plus E dn by dx. So the overall diffusion density with respect to holes can be given by the equations for the individual densities of electrons as well as holes. Therefore, the overall current density is given by, so that is the Jp that is equal to drift current and diffusion current. So you can write the drift current EP mu P E minus E dP by dx. So you can total to current density that is equal to Jn plus Jp. So in this way equation for the diffusion current density are described for holes as well as electrons. The diffusion current in the semiconductor has occurred before the applications of the external supply, and it is also termed as the process of recombination in order to achieve the uniformity. So that's all. We have covered all theory part. So we can see what is the role of drift current and diffusion current in the semiconductor materials. So now you can see which of the following expression represent the direct distribution of electrons in the conduction band. So you have to represent, if we are talking about the G, E that is the density of quantum number, quantum states, and Fe that is the Fermi Dirac probability. So you have to choose the proper option for it. Now what is the value of effective density of a state function in conduction band and the 300 K? So you have to calculate the effective density states of the function. Now next question is, in semiconductor, which of the following carries can contribute to the current? So you have to decide. You can see here. Now which of the following expressions represent the Fermi probability functions? So you can see here the basic equation of, so you can choose any one from here. You have to given the different values. Now we will move to the intrinsic silicon concentration. Okay. So according to that, you have to given the temperature T and you have to calculate the silicon. So intrinsic electron concentration in silicon material. So you can calculate that particular value by using the formula which I already shown. Now which of the following semiconductor the concentration of hole and electron is equal? So you have to choose intrinsic, extrinsic. So what about the intrinsic, extrinsic? We can also revise this part. Extrinsic, P-type and N-type semiconductor materials, extrinsic semiconductor materials, and we have added extra material or doping for enhancing the conductivity of their semiconductor material. If you are talking about the intrinsic semiconductor materials, it will be the pure semiconductor materials, and in normal temperature there is no conduction of electrons. So this is a basic property of our Semiconductor materials, mobility and resistivity. What about the drift velocity? What about the diffusion well current? So that is the various types of currents which will be executed in our semiconductor. So we have to see about the mobility and conductivity of the, this is all the semiconductor materials, how we can represent it as a particular, what is the mobility and what is the conductivity of your. So I think it will be clear to you. In our next lecture, we will discuss some practice worksheet on the numerical of your mobility and conductivity. So, okay, thank you.